Herzlich willkommen zu GermanStudios. Ich bin Timo, ich bin dein Host und ich freue mich sehr, dass du bei diesem Podcast dabei bist. In diesem Podcast geht es um das Thema Deutsch lernen und alle anderen Themen, die damit verbunden sind. Ich wünsche dir viel Spaß bei dieser Folge und enjoy it! Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Podcastfolge mit mir. Ich bin Timo von GermanStudios und heute sprechen wir über den zweiten Teil vom Partizip 2 Perfekt, also der Past in Deutsch. Ich habe letzte Woche Montag schon für euch den ersten Teil gemacht und heute kommt Teil 2. So, what we actually learned in the first episode about the Partizip 2 Perfect. So, we learned that the past in German is being made out of two elements which we always need. So, there is a support verb, which is the verb haben with the conjugation, and the main verb, which will always stand at the end in the sentence in the specific past version. And we have a second support verb. This is the verb sein, which is to be, and this is, of course, also standing on the second position with the second verb at the end in a specific past version. So, now the question when I'm using haben and when I'm using sein. Haben we're using actually for all of the verbs which are like normal verbs or activity verbs. And sein we're using just, or let's say only, for movement verbs. So if we are using gehen, fahren, laufen, rennen, springen, so all of these movement verbs, so to go, to jump, to climb, to swim, to travel, then we are using the support verb to be, and also for verbs change of state, so change of state verbs like passieren, which means to happen, aufwachen, like to wake up, aufstehen, like to get up, or also like to pass away, like sterben. These are like the verbs we're using sein, and then you can say the rest of the verbs, all of the other verbs we have in German, we use haben as a support verb. And haben and sein, they get a conjugation on the second position, and the other verb, so the verb actually for the main context, I always call it the main verb, stays at the end in the specific past version. Like, ich habe ein Eis gegessen, so I ate ice cream. Or let's say, ich bin nach Berlin gegangen, so I went to Berlin. And you saw already that I'm translating the past version in German with more like the simple past in English, and it looks in German, so the past version in German looks a little bit more like the past perfect in English and not like the simple past, but the past I'm explaining right now looks like the past perfect but has the meaning of the simple past. That's very important because many people get confused, because if you say ich habe ein Eis gegessen, this looks a little bit like I have eaten ice cream. But it's not I have eaten ice cream, it just means I ate ice cream. That's very, very important. So in German, there are like two past versions existing, same in English. So you have the Präteritum. This is the one what I will explain quite soon in one of these podcast episodes which will come for you. And what we learned already is the, in English called past perfect, we call it Partizip 2 or also perfect. But the difference between English and German is here that the Präteritum, which is in English the simple past, and the Partizip 2 perfect, which is the past perfect in English, are in German the same time. So there's no like difference in time. Both is just the normal regular past. Okay, this was a little summary from the previous episode, and I promise already that we have an extended version of the previous podcast. And what we learned today is how we can use the past in more, let's say, various contexts or situations. If we, for example, are using split verbs, yeah, and just as a little reminder, what is a split verb? A split verb, for example, is einkaufen or anrufen. So you always have a prefix in front, for example, an or mit or ein, and then you have your main verb actually coming. So einkaufen. Ein is the prefix, stands in front of the verb, and kaufen is the main verb. And kaufen will always stay on the second position in the sentence if you make a normal sentence, and ein always goes at the end. Kaufen gets the conjugation, and I give you an example. Let's say, ich kaufe Bananen ein. Or let's go with anrufen, this means to call someone via phone. Ich rufe meine Mutter an. So I call my mom. And you can see, ich rufe meine Mutter an. An goes at the end. Rufe is our regular verb. Second position gets a conjugation. Same with einkaufen. Ich kaufe Bananen ein. Ein goes at the end. Kaufe second position plus a conjugation. So, but what is if we are using these verbs in the past? So you learned already that in the Partizip 2, so Partizip 2, perfect, the main verb is always at the end. And this is the same situation here. Also the split verb have to stand at the end. But normally we have to split the split verbs. That's quite funny to split the split verbs. Yeah, but we have to split the split verbs in a normal sentence, but not if we are using them in the past. So that's very important. So you will never split einkaufen or anrufen or mitbringen or ankommen and all of these split verbs. You will never split them in the past. You just place them at the end. And the cool thing is whenever, or let's say wherever you split the split verb. So you always split the split verb after the prefix. So you split after einkaufen. No? In the past, you add here always the GE. So you would say eingekauft. Or let's say angerufen. So you see, where you normally split the split verb, there you would place the GE. So actually between the prefix and the main verb. Always there you add the GE. And then you always have to know what is actually, let's say, the main verb as a normal verb. So if we speak about einkaufen, we have to focus on kaufen. What is the past of kaufen? The past of kaufen is gekauft. So the past of einkaufen is eingekauft. I give you another example. The past of kommen is gekommen. So the past of ankommen, which means to arrive, means angekommen. Or let's say, I give you another example, mitbringen. So bringen, the past of bringen, is by the way irregular, would be gebracht. So mitbringen would be mitgebracht. So you see already how simple it is actually if you speak about the split verbs. Because as I said, I just summarized a little bit, the split verbs are getting always the GE where you split the verb, and the main verb is same like the normal past of this verb. So kaufen is gekauft, einkaufen, eingekauft. That's it. So easy. But of course, you always have to be careful if the verb is a movement verb, so from A to B, and for example, ankommen, to arrive, this is a movement verb, so you cannot use haben as a support verb, you have to use to be. But for example, mitbringen, which means like to bring something with you, or you also can bring someone with you, or anrufen, which means to call, these are normal activity verbs, so you just have to use haben. Ne? Let's say, ich habe meine Mutter angerufen. This means I called my mom. Or ich habe Bananen eingekauft. So I bought bananas. But let's say ich bin, and here you see bin and not habe anymore. Ich bin in Berlin angekommen. It's a movement verb, so you have to use the support verb to be. And then I would like to show you one more thing. What is actually happening? This is not about split verbs anymore. Just it's a new topic. What about like if we have different sentence structures? So let's say we have one big sentence which consists actually out of two sentences. So we have a main sentence and we have a side sentence. In this podcast here, we never spoke about main sentences and side sentences. So I will introduce this later a little bit more in detail. So here just quick combined with the past because it's very important. Let's say I would like to say a sentence, I'm hungry because I didn't eat anything. So in German this would be ich habe Hunger, weil ich nichts gegessen habe. So if you are using the connector weil, W-E-I-L, which means because, we have a rule in German, so we have to put the verb, which is normally on the second position, so on the position 2 in the sentence, at the end of the sentence. It's not an infinitive, it gets still the conjugation, it's just a position change. So the verb have to be on the second position. I just say the sentence again, weil ich nichts gegessen habe. You can see that habe is at the end. The normal sentence is, ich habe nichts gegessen. Here you can see, okay, habe, second position, as usual. But if I'm using weil, the verb have to be at the end. And if I'm using on top the past and the construction with weil, which means because, we just have to add habe at the end. So I told you before that always you have a sentence, for example, ich habe eine Banane gegessen or ich habe Bananen eingekauft. So you always see habe second position, or if it's a movement verb, to be second position, and the main verb at the end. But if you're using weil, yeah, like a Nebensatz connector, we have more. We also have like das or wenn and als, but we are getting later to this point. All of these connectors are called Nebensatz connectors. And these Nebensatz connectors, they have the effect that just the verb from the second position have to be at the end. The rest of the sentence you don't touch, you just keep it as it is, but you just add haben, or in this case, it also can be to be, because that's your movement support verb, at the end. So, weil ich nichts gegessen, and then habe. Or let's say, weil ich in Berlin angekommen bin. You see, ich bin in Berlin angekommen, weil ich in Berlin angekommen bin. This is a kind of extended version of the previous podcast, and I hope you liked it a lot. So I recommend to listen maybe to this episode 1 or 2 times, because there's a lot of content inside. And what I always recommend as well, just write the sentences down which I'm saying. And if you're very new and let's say unfamiliar with German, just give me an email, just give me a message. Just go on the website www.germanstudios.de. You can find our contact there. You just can always message us for the transcript of the podcast or like for questions, or also if you would be interested in making courses. On the 17th of April, so quite soon, there's the new round of courses been launched, and I'm absolutely happy to see all of you in my courses. The courses are already quite booked, so you have to see where you can find a spot. But if you don't catch this round a spot for the German course, then of course you also can join our next round. There are a few more seats available, and of course if you need a little bit support in individual lessons, or let's say you and your partner would like to be trained with us, then you always can message us. Or let's say you have an exam like A2, B1, B2, C1, or even C2 exam upcoming and you would like to prepare a little bit, then of course just message me, message us. We are always more than happy to help you, and we definitely pass together the exam. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much, guys. Have a lovely week, and soon there is Easter, and there's the next episode coming also about Easter, and I'm super happy if you would give me a little review. Maybe you can make a thumbs up and a subscription on Spotify. This helps me a lot, because this is like free content for everybody, because I would like to make German easy as possible for everybody out there, and I would love to help everybody to speak this language. Although there's a rumor that German is super difficult, I don't believe in it. I would say German is challenging, but with the right guideline we can handle, and I try to be this guideline for you, and whenever you have a question, just message me. So, ich wünsche dir einen wunderschönen Tag, eine wunderschöne Woche und bis bald. Vielen Dank, auf Wiedersehen und ciao.